It's undeniable that in today's modern society, debates and discussions on topics between two opposing sides has undoubtedly eroded to a point of no return. Rather than talking out opposing point of views with facts, perspectives, and ideas, many have opted to rather simply attack the person presenting certain topics in an attempt to tear their opponent down without ever having to tackle what is actually being said. Why actually debate an idea or perspective when you can slander, misinform, or discredit the individual presenting the idea and take the stage right out from under them in this twisted, dystopian world we live in? Doom and gloom aside, let's keep the conversation within the confines of gaming for now and talk about a form of counter-criticism that gets thrown around a lot nowadays: the accusation of having a skill issue. Skill issue is a popular phrase within the larger gaming community as a means to attribute individuals' criticisms and complaints about a game as a result of their own personal failure in understanding or executing certain actions within a game to achieve a desired result, and therefore come to a more accurate conclusion on certain matters. Typically, how good a game is or how well executed certain game mechanics are within said game. Variations of it have existed before, with the most well-known one being the term "get good," which was a phrase popularized within the Souls and Souls-like game communities. Skill issue itself as a phrase is not inherently bad when used in appropriate circumstances, but those circumstances are widely encompassing and must come together to strengthen the use of skill issue when used as a counter-criticism. TLDR, it is a case-by-case basis. Instances of bad gameplay, such as Polygon's 30 minutes of Doom 2016 gameplay or Dean Takahashi's embarrassing Cuphead tutorial footage, should make anyone taking opinions from these journalists or the sites that represent them with as much doubt towards the value of their opinions as humanly possible. Not just because of how awful the gameplay was, but because Doom 2016 and Cuphead are both games that set an expectation of being hard but fair to those who played them, and said expectations are given to you right from the start when you begin the game. On the other end of the spectrum, there are moments when immediately calling out an individual's skill is not warranted or even an appropriate response when taken in proper context. In Monster Hunter World, over the course of its post-launch development of the Iceborne expansion, Capcom released the iconic monster Alatreon for players to fight from older games, but with new mechanics that were a massive departure from how many players progressed through all Monster Hunter World content previously before the Black Dragon took center stage. Many players were put off by his requirement of completely changing your build to meet the elemental damage DPS checks you had to work around for his fight. Failure to do so would result in what was effectively a hard fail state, as he would perform a map-wide area of effect attack you could not heal through if you didn't meet the DPS check at least once before he performed the attack. This here is not an example of a skill issue, as Monster Hunter World up until Alatreon was nowhere near as difficult and did not properly prepare players for this massive difficulty spike. And then you have games where there can be a very polarizing mix of opinions, often due to design decisions that put players in a position of feeling like they have no control over a situation, while others might not feel it. The recently booming Megabonk is a prime example of this, a roguelike action game that's a mix of Vampire Survivors and Risk of Rain 2 that takes the RNG elements of those games and cranks it up to 11. You'll regularly find complaints from players about how many layers of RNG Megabonk uses that frequently hinders a player's ability to complete a run, oftentimes coupled with egregious boss HP scaling and a handful of annoying enemy mechanics. Many see no issue with Megabonk's RNG, as to them, it's simply just part of the genre and can be worked around, while others find it needlessly infuriating and a waste of their effort when their runs are bricked from too many bad level ups and gear drops. And then there's Helldivers 2. I'm so glad I don't play Helldivers 2. I just play Girls Front. If you've gotten this far in the video and are wondering if I'm about to provide some sort of solution to this growing cultural problem, I don't, unfortunately. As video games continue to become more and more ingrained into everyone's day-to-day lives, be it as personal hobbies, escapism, social clout, or, heaven forbid, a validation of someone's own self-worth as a human being, It's now effectively impossible to root this out unless the games in question that foster these toxic mindsets just up and disappear. And I guess in that last string of sentences, I did just give my own opinion to the question posed in this video's title. Yes, in most cases, I believe skill issue is more often than not used to deflect all criticism. Though, it would seem that in certain circles of hardcore gaming, a new phrase has taken up the mantle in more recent years that almost sounds a bit patronizing if you ask me. I am referring to the use of the word tourist. Tourist carries a somewhat similar sentiment around it, but more so emphasizes how the labeled individual in question is an outsider looking in and doesn't have the proper experience to talk about or critique something, but without outright dismissing them in most cases. Almost like a glorified, massive asterisk stamped over them to signal to others within a particular gaming community to hold their opinions with some weight, but not enough to warrant meaningful discussion, and write them off nonetheless. It doesn't sound as bad as throwing out a skill issue, but its intent is practically the same nonetheless to the in-group using it. Yet despite this, neither label truly matters if the mainstream gaming crowd already feels the same way about a subject. The silent majority are the ones holding all the cards, long before anyone attempts to speak up. If there is an issue in a game that is truly detrimental to the experience, shooting down an opposing voice won't matter if the general public have already came to the same conclusion. You cannot change the opinion of the silent majority because the silent majority likely don't even know who you are, let alone what you have to say. I believe this in many ways is why Asmongold in particular resonates with such a massive crowd, as while his very crass, Occam's razor approach to everything he talks about acts in opposition of what professionalism and group representation stands for, his thought processes in drawing conclusions really is the same method the wider public use to make their own decisions, being the very poster child for having a skill issue yet is unburdened by the weight the title comes with.
Oh my god. We fucking did it.
Wait, he beat it? Shit. Alright, I'll admit it. I have a skill issue, alright? I'm not a fan of all the RNG and Megabonk. Sue me.